everyone needs to sacrifice. Vanessa stared across the glass conference table, tapping her manicured fingernails against her tablet. Your package is outdated. We're cutting base pay by 40% and restructuring commissions. My name is Jeffrey Maddox, 52 years old with salt and pepper hair that started turning in my 30s. For 15 years, I'd been Senior Vice President of Sales at Triillock Woodworks, a commercial millwork supplier based in Austin, Texas. My business card said SVP, but what I really did was keep the lights on. I personally managed our top 10 accounts. These weren't just clients, they were relationships built over thousands of phone calls, countless dinners, and 15 years of solving problems before they even became problems. I knew the names of their kids, their golf handicaps, their vacation spots. They called me before they called their own teams when they needed something fixed. The new structure will incentivize growth, Vanessa continued, sliding a document across the table. Everyone's package is being adjusted to align with industry standards. I glanced at the paper. 40% cut to base salary, commission restructure that would make it impossible to earn what I earned now, even with growth. Benefit reductions. Vanessa Claymore had arrived 3 months ago after the acquisition, wearing designer suits and carrying a Harvard MBA. She'd spent her first weeks analyzing spreadsheets and holding closed-door meetings with the new parent company executives. I knew what she saw when she looked at me. Expensive, old school, a relic who should have been grateful just to keep his job. Is there a timeline for this transition? I asked, my voice even. Effective immediately. She smiled tightly. We need everyone on board with the new direction. I closed the folder, stood up, and extended my hand. Thank you for the clarity. Her smile faltered. She'd expected arguing, negotiation, maybe even desperation. Instead, she got a handshake and a calm exit. Later that afternoon, I saw her watching me from her office as I packed a few personal items into a cardboard box. Nothing dramatic, just a photo of my daughters at their college graduations, a pen set from a client, an old sales award. On my way out, I nodded to Thomas, our chief financial officer. He'd been with me since the beginning. His eyes said what his mouth couldn't. This wasn't just about cutting costs. This was about cutting me out. In the parking lot, I didn't slam doors or screech tires. I just placed the box in my trunk, adjusted my mirror, and drove away with 15 years of client relationships that Vanessa had just handed to the competition. I built that sales department brick by brick. When I joined Triillock in 2010, we were a regional player selling $8 million annually. By last year, my team was pushing $73 million, and my personal accounts represented over $12 million of that. My father ran a small cabinet shop in Dallas, taught me everything about wood, joinery, and finishes before I was 16. After college, I bounced between a few sales jobs until I found Triillock. Something clicked there. I understood the products because I'd grown up around them. I could talk technical details with architects and pricing with purchasing managers in the same meeting. The owner, Oliver Wainwright, recognized what I brought to the table. You're not just selling product, he'd say. You're selling trust. He gave me room to build my department my way. I hired young, hungry reps and taught them what Oliver taught me. Relationships matter more than transactions. When Oliver sold the company to Driftmore Labs last year, I was concerned but not panicked. Acquisitions were part of the business cycle. I'd navigate it like any other change. The first signs of trouble came when they started replacing the executive team. New CEO from outside the industry, new marketing director who wanted to reimagine our digital presence. Then Vanessa, with her sleek presentations about operational efficiency and resource optimization. Small changes came first. Travel budgets tightened. Customer entertainment accounts required multiple approvals. My weekly meetings with the executive team became monthly, then as needed. We're just streamlining, Vanessa explained during one of our earlier meetings. Nothing personal. But it was personal when she started scheduling calls with my key accounts without including me. When she questioned the discounts I'd negotiated years ago that had kept clients loyal through multiple price increases. When she suggested my team needed fresh perspectives and brought in 2 of her former colleagues as new regional managers. Thomas tried to warn me during our quarterly budget review. They're looking hard at the sales compensation structure, he said quietly, glancing toward the door, particularly the legacy arrangements. I was the only legacy arrangement left. A week before that final meeting, I spotted Vanessa having lunch with Gabriella, my newest hire. They were huddled close, speaking intensely. When they saw me walk into the restaurant, Gabriella looked down at her plate while Vanessa waved casually, as if bumping into me was a pleasant surprise. Later, Gabriella avoided eye contact when I asked about the lunch. "Just getting to know the team," she mumbled. I knew then what was coming. Not the details, but the direction. That evening after Vanessa's announcement, I sat in my home office staring at the sales reports from the last decade. 15 years of consistent growth. 15 years of building Triillock Woodworks into an industry leader. 15 years of loyalty being paid back with a dismissive, "Your package is outdated." My phone buzzed. A text from Frank Donnelly, purchasing director at Weston Commercial, our largest account. "Heard rumors about big changes at Triillock. Everything okay? Call me." Frank and I had worked together for 12 years. I'd helped him through 2 company restructures, a divorce, and his son's college applications. We weren't just business associates, we'd become friends. I poured 2 fingers of bourbon and called him. "Jeffrey," he answered immediately. "What the hell is going on over there? I got a call from some woman saying she's taking over our account." "That would be Vanessa Claymore, our new sales director," I replied, keeping my voice neutral. "Well, she started talking about reviewing our pricing structure and implementing some new vendor management system." Frank's voice tightened. "We have a contract and we have processes that work. I don't need someone telling me how to manage my suppliers." I took a slow sip, letting the silence stretch. "Jeffrey," Frank lowered his voice, "are you staying? Because if you're not, we need to talk." In that moment, everything crystallized. My value wasn't in my title or even in my sales numbers. It was in 15 years of trust. 15 years of solving problems instead of creating them. 15 years of relationships that could walk out the door with me. "I'm considering my options," I said carefully. "Well, consider this. If you land somewhere else, give me a call first before I have to deal with Harvard Barbie again." After hanging up, I opened my laptop and drafted an email to Daniel Harrison at Pinnacle Supply Group. We'd met at an industry conference last year, and he'd mentioned they were looking to expand their commercial millwork division. I didn't send it immediately, just saved it to drafts. The next morning, I received calls from 3 more clients, all with similar concerns. Vanessa was already reaching out, already making changes, already disrupting relationships she didn't understand. I drove to the office one last time to finish clearing out my desk. As I packed, Thomas slipped me a folded piece of paper. "Your client retention numbers," he said quietly, "and their average annual spend. Thought you might need it." I nodded, understanding what he was really saying. He knew what I was worth even if Vanessa didn't. That afternoon, I finalized my resignation letter, sent the email to Daniel at Pinnacle, and called my lawyer to review my non-compete agreement. I discovered what I'd suspected. It applied to products, not clients. I couldn't sell competitive millwork for 6 months, but nothing prevented me from maintaining my relationships. I didn't feel angry anymore. I felt focused, clear. There's a certain power in being underestimated, in being dismissed as outdated. It means they never see you coming until it's too late. I spent 2 weeks exploring my options before accepting Daniel's offer at Pinnacle Supply Group. The role was perfect. Senior Vice President of Business Development with full autonomy to build my own division. "We want your expertise, Jeffrey," Daniel said during our final meeting. "You know what works in this industry. We don't need to reinvent the wheel." The next day, I called Vanessa to discuss my resignation and transition plan. I proposed staying 2 weeks to ensure a smooth handoff of my accounts. "That won't be necessary," she said coolly. "We've already been in touch with your clients. Gabriella will be handling the transition." "These relationships are complex," I explained. "There are nuances to each account that take time to—" "We have all your notes in the CRM," she cut me off. "And frankly, your approach was rather old-fashioned. We're implementing a more data-driven client management strategy. I could have argued, but what was the point? She'd made up her mind about me the moment she walked through the door. "I'll have HR process your exit paperwork," she concluded. "Please return all company property by the end of the week." 3 days later, I met Frank from Weston Commercial for lunch. He hadn't returned Gabriella's calls, and Vanessa had escalated to his boss. "Your replacement sent me a client satisfaction survey with 48 questions," Frank said, shaking his head. Then she followed up with a presentation about their new customer success metrics. "I don't need metrics. I need someone who understands our business." I nodded but kept my comments neutral. I wasn't going to badmouth Triillock. "Where are you heading next?" Frank asked directly. "I'm joining Pinnacle as SVP of Business Development." Frank raised an eyebrow. "Interesting. They've been trying to get our business for years." I sipped my water. "I start in 2 weeks." "Well," Frank said, sliding his business card across the table, "call me when you're settled." The next day, I received a certified letter from Triillock's legal department. It reminded me of my non-compete obligations and warned against any improper solicitation of Triillock clients. The letter listed every major account I'd managed by name. That afternoon, my phone rang. It was Harold Lang, CEO of Northwell Construction, another top 10 client. "Jeffrey, what the hell? This new woman is trying to change our payment terms. Says our account structure requires optimization. We've been on net 45 for a decade." "I'm no longer with Triillock," I replied carefully. "Yeah, I figured that out when she called. Where'd you land?" I gave him the basics about Pinnacle. Before I could finish, he interrupted. "They handle the same product lines?" "Similar, yes." "Good. Call me Monday. I want to talk options." By the end of the week, I'd received similar calls from 5 more clients. Each conversation followed the same pattern: complaints about Vanessa's approach, questions about my new position, requests to connect once I started. I hadn't solicited a single client. They were coming to me. On my last official day, Vanessa called unexpectedly. "I understand you've been in contact with Triillock clients," she said, her voice tight. "I've spoken with some people, yes. Many of them are personal friends after 15 years. We consider those proprietary business relationships," she said. "Any attempt to redirect that business would constitute a breach of your separation agreement." "I understand my obligations," I replied evenly. "Good," she snapped, "because the last thing you want is a legal battle with Driftmoor's attorneys." After hanging up, I forwarded the call recording to my lawyer. The same lawyer who'd confirmed that my non-compete only restricted me from selling millwork for 6 months. Nothing prevented me from selling other construction supplies to those same clients through Pinnacle. Nothing prevented those clients from choosing to follow me. Vanessa had just revealed her first real fear. She was beginning to understand what she'd done by pushing me out the door. My first day at Pinnacle started with a revelation. "We've been trying to break into Triillock's market for years," Daniel admitted during our morning meeting. "Your predecessor spent 18 months courting Weston Commercial without getting past their purchasing department." "Frank Donnelly doesn't trust easily," I agreed. Daniel leaned forward. "Here's what I don't understand. Triillock's client retention rate is nearly 95%, while the industry average hovers around 72%. What's their secret?" I almost laughed. Their secret was sitting right in front of him. "It's not a secret, it's relationships," I explained. "When Oliver ran the company, he understood that contracts might keep clients on paper, but relationships keep them loyal when competitors undercut your prices." Daniel nodded slowly. "And the new management doesn't get that. The new management sees relationships as inefficient. Vanessa wants automated systems, not phone calls." Before I could elaborate, my assistant interrupted with an urgent message. Thomas, Triillock's CFO, wanted to meet. We arranged to meet at a quiet bar downtown after work. Thomas looked nervous, glancing over his shoulder as I approached. "I shouldn't be here," he said immediately. "But you are," I replied, ordering us both a drink. Thomas pushed a folder across the table. "The board meeting was yesterday. Thought you should see this." Inside was a copy of Vanessa's quarterly strategy presentation. The first few pages contained standard projections and marketing plans. Then I saw it. Client transition strategy, Maddox accounts. The plan detailed how they would migrate my former clients to Gabriella and 2 new account managers. It included talking points addressing potential objections about my departure and a relationship reclamation timeline. But what caught my attention was the financial projection showing my clients representing not $12 million in annual revenue as I'd always estimated, but $17.3 million, nearly 24% of Triillock's total revenue. They never told you what your book was really worth, Thomas said quietly. Oliver knew, but after the acquisition, he shrugged. Why are you showing me this? Thomas took a long drink. Because what they're doing isn't right. And because Vanessa's already missing forecasts. She told the board it's temporary disruption during the transition, but the numbers don't lie. He tapped the folder. She's already lost Northwell, hasn't she? I didn't confirm or deny. Client decisions weren't my responsibility anymore. It's going to get worse, Thomas continued. She's implementing price increases across all legacy accounts next month. The board approved it based on her analysis that we've been underpricing the market for years. Now I understood. Vanessa hadn't just wanted me gone to save on my compensation. She'd seen my client relationships as a barrier to her aggressive revenue strategy. With me out of the picture, she could raise prices, change terms, and implement new systems that would extract more short-term profit from relationships I'd spent years building. There's something else, Thomas added, voice dropping lower. They've been auditing your expense reports going back 3 years, looking for any irregularities. They won't find any. I know that, but they're building a narrative. If clients start leaving, they need someone to blame. As Thomas left, he hesitated. I'm updating my resume. Just thought you should know. Driving home, I felt a strange calm. I wasn't just learning what Vanessa thought of me. I was learning what Triillock had really thought of me all along. My value had been clear in their numbers, but absent from my compensation. They'd been happy to benefit from my relationships while quietly planning to extract more profit from them once I was gone. The truth wasn't just that Vanessa had underestimated me. It was that Triillock had undervalued me for years. 2 months into my new position at Pinnacle, I'd settled into a rhythm. My office overlooked downtown Austin, and my small but growing team included 2 young sales representatives I'd handpicked. I hadn't directly solicited any of my former clients. I didn't need to. They came to me. First was Harold from Northwell, who called the day after Triillock implemented their price increase. That's a 14% hike with no warning, he fumed. Can Pinnacle match our original pricing? We could, and we did, while adding value-added services Triillock had never offered. Then came Westerly Developers, followed by Regional Builders, then Austin Modern Construction. Each had similar complaints: unexpected price increases, rigid new policies, impersonal service. By the end of my second month, 4 of my former top 10 accounts had moved their business to Pinnacle. I made sure each transition was flawless. My team worked weekends to ensure perfect first orders. I personally visited job sites to check deliveries. Word spread through the industry that following Jeffrey Maddox to Pinnacle meant better service at better prices. Then my phone rang with a call from Vanessa. We need to talk, she said, her usual confidence replaced with thinly veiled panic. I agreed to meet at a coffee shop near Pinnacle's office. Vanessa arrived 15 minutes early, already nursing a latte when I walked in. This has to stop, she said without preamble. What exactly? You know what? Poaching our clients. I stirred my coffee. I haven't solicited a single Triillock client. Bullshit, she snapped, then caught herself. 4 major accounts have left us in 8 weeks. All of them mentioned you by name. Clients make their own decisions. Vanessa leaned forward. We can make this easy or hard, Jeffrey. Easy means you back off and we don't pursue legal action for breach of contract. There's no breach, I replied calmly. My non-compete prevents me from selling millwork for 6 months. Pinnacle's construction supply division doesn't compete with Triillock's millwork. Her eyes narrowed. You're exploiting a loophole. I'm respecting the exact terms of an agreement your legal team drafted. I took a sip of coffee. Perhaps they should have been more careful. The board is asking questions, she admitted, her voice dropping, about client retention, about revenue projections. That sounds like an internal Triillock matter. She tried a different approach. What do you want? A consulting arrangement? A finder's fee for leaving certain accounts alone? I almost laughed. She still didn't understand. I'm not interested in arrangements, I said, standing up. I'm interested in doing my job well. The rest takes care of itself. The next day, Frank from Weston Commercial called. Their 3-year contract with Triillock was coming up for renewal. We're putting it out to bid, he said. Vanessa's been calling me daily, offered to beat any competitor's price by 5%. That's a good offer, I acknowledged. Is it? Because I'm looking at more than price here, Jeffrey. I need someone who understands our business, someone who answers the phone at 7 p.m. when a project is in trouble. 2 weeks later, Weston awarded Pinnacle a 2-year supply contract worth $4.2 million annually. It was a major coup, the kind that makes headlines in industry publications. The same day, I received an email from Thomas. It contained only a forwarded internal message from Triillock, announcing that Vanessa was being reassigned to strategic development initiatives, while they conducted a search for a new sales director. I didn't reply to Thomas, or reach out to anyone at Triillock. I simply forwarded Weston's signed contract to Daniel with a note. First of many, planning to reach 20 mailers in new business by year-end. The wheels were in motion, and Vanessa was just beginning to understand the real cost of her miscalculation. 6 months after joining Pinnacle, I stood in the company's conference room surrounded by my team. On the wall-mounted screen was our quarterly performance report, $13.7 million in new business, with projections to hit $22 million by year-end. 8 of my former top 10 Triillock accounts had followed me to Pinnacle. Daniel walked in with a bottle of champagne. The board just approved your division expansion plan, he announced. Additional staff, increased marketing budget, everything you asked for. As glasses were passed around, my phone buzzed with a text from Thomas. Triillock Q3 earnings call in 30 minutes, or might want to listen in. I stepped away from the celebration to dial into the call. Triillock's new CEO, Raymond Peters, sounded tense as he addressed investors. While we anticipated some disruption following our strategic restructuring, sales have underperformed against projections. We've experienced unexpected client attrition in our commercial division. An analyst interrupted. Can you quantify that attrition? We're seeing estimates that Triillock has lost nearly 20% of its annual revenue in the past 2 quarters. Those numbers are speculative, Raymond deflected. We're implementing an aggressive client retention strategy. Is it accurate that your largest account, Weston Commercial, recently signed with Pinnacle Supply Group? Another analyst pressed. The pause was deafening. We're in ongoing discussions with all our key accounts, Raymond finally responded. As the call continued, I received an email from Gabriella, my former hire who'd sided with Vanessa. The subject line read, Any openings at Pinnacle? I rejoined the celebration, declining the champagne. Daniel noticed my expression. Everything okay? Just got some confirmation, I replied. That afternoon, an industry newsletter broke the story. Triillock Woodwork struggles after exodus of key accounts. The article specifically mentioned my move to Pinnacle and the subsequent client migration. It quoted an anonymous Triillock employee stating that the company had fundamentally misunderstood the value of its senior sales leadership. I never had to say a word. The numbers spoke for themselves. A year to the day after Vanessa told me my package was outdated, I sat in my expanded office at Pinnacle reviewing our annual numbers. My division had generated $26.3 million in revenue, exceeding even my ambitious projections. My team had grown from 2 sales representatives to 11, with a dedicated client support staff. We'd moved to a larger floor in the building, and Daniel had hinted at a board position opening up. I kept a photograph on my desk from our division's holiday dinner. Faces relaxed, genuine smiles. A team that understood what I'd always known. Business is built on trust. My assistant buzzed. There's a Vanessa Claymore here to see you. No appointment. I paused, then nodded. Send her in. Vanessa looked different, less polished, more tired. Her designer suit had been replaced by something off the rack. Thank you for seeing me, she said, remaining standing even after I gestured to a chair. What can I do for you? I'm with Hamilton Group now, she explained. Business consulting. I was hoping to get your perspective on Pinnacle's approach to client retention for a case study I'm developing. I almost laughed at the irony. I think you already know my approach. She nodded stiffly. I made a miscalculation at Triillock. You did. The market is talking about how you took down a company without saying a word, she continued. That's a powerful reputation. I didn't respond. Vanessa hadn't come for a case study. She'd come for absolution or reconciliation. I wasn't offering either. After a moment of awkward silence, she placed her business card on my desk. If you ever want to discuss industry trends. I appreciate the offer, I said, standing up, but I'm fully booked these days. After she left, I glanced at the card, then dropped it in the shredder. That evening, I drove to my daughter's new house for dinner. She'd just been promoted to senior architect at her firm. How's work, Dad? She asked as we sat on her patio. Good, I replied simply, building something that'll last. And I was. Not with wood this time, but with the same principles that had guided my entire career. Do the work. Keep your promises. Value relationships over transactions. In the end, Vanessa had given me an unexpected gift. She'd forced me to prove, to myself and everyone watching, exactly what 15 years of trust was really worth.